Hey friends, welcome to Cooking with Claudia. Today I'm sharing with you 10 delicious sides perfect for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Let's get started. The first recipe we're making are these roasted honey balsamic glazed Brussels sprouts. These are delicious and perfect for Thanksgiving. I'm using about 1.5 pounds of Brussels sprouts for this recipe. We're going to trim the Brussels sprouts by cutting a little bit off the bottom, then slicing them in half. Once I've cut up all the Brussels sprouts, I'm going to transfer them into a large mixing bowl. Then I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil and seasoning with salt and pepper to my taste. I'm going to mix everything together. Once I'm done mixing, I'm going to transfer them onto a large baking pan. Next, I'm spreading out the sprouts into a single layer all over the baking pan, and you want to make sure the cut up side is facing down. Make sure your oven is preheating at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Place your Brussels sprouts into the oven and roast them for 20 to 25 minutes. While the sprouts are roasting, we're going to put together a simple honey balsamic sauce for them. Into an empty bowl, I'm pouring in 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar and 1 tablespoon of honey. I'm mixing everything together, then setting this aside for when the Brussels sprouts are done roasting. The Brussels sprouts are done roasting. They have a nice golden crisp on the edge. They look perfect. I'm going to transfer them into a mixing bowl. Then I'm pouring the honey balsamic sauce all over them. All we have to do is toss and coat them well in the sauce. Then these are ready for the table. These Brussels sprouts came out delicious. They're going to be amazing for the holiday table. If you and your family love mushrooms, then these garlic mushrooms will be irresistible at the holiday table. We're using 1 pound of baby Bella mushrooms. Some of the mushrooms are small in sizes. I'm going to leave those as they are, but I'm going to halve the bigger pieces. That way all the sizes are even. I have my cast iron pan heating up over medium heat. I'm tossing in 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I am also adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm going to let the butter melt completely. Then I'm tossing in 1 medium minced onion. I'm cooking the onion for about a minute or 2 until it turns translucent. Then I'm adding the mushrooms. Cook the mushrooms for about 4 minutes or until they soften a little bit. My trick to getting more flavor is to leave the mushrooms to cook, then stir every 1 minute. That way the bottoms can have time to brown up and add flavor each time you stir. Next, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of white wine. Then I'm going to season with some salt and pepper to taste. I'm going to stir everything together, then cook for about 2 minutes. That way the sauce can reduce and thicken slightly. After the sauce has cooked and reduced, I'm going to add in 4 cloves of minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped parsley, and 1 tablespoon of freshly chopped thyme. I'm going to mix everything together, then cook for about 30 seconds or until the garlic begins to get fragrant. And that's it, you guys, we are done. Very easy, flavorful, and delicious garlic mushroom side. Perfect for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Next on the menu, we're making sweet potato casserole. Please make this for the holidays because it's so good. I'm using about 2.5 pounds of sweet potatoes. Bake them in the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Once they're done baking, scoop the food out into a bowl and quickly mash it up with a food masher. Next, add 5 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of butter, 1/4 cup milk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Mix together until everything is very well incorporated. Once everything is mixed in, set it aside. Grab a baking pan, then use about 1 tablespoon of butter to grease it up. Then pour the sweet potato mixture into the greased baking pan. Spread and level out the top, then set it aside while we work on the toppings. For the toppings, we're using 1.5 cups of pecans. Roughly chop it up, then you're going to grab an empty bowl, pour in 2 tablespoons of flour, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 teaspoon cinnamon, then add the chopped pecans. Mix everything together, then add 1.5 tablespoons of melted butter. Mix that in very well. Then you're going to grab the sweet potato mixture in the baking dish. Then sprinkle the pecan mixture all over the top. Then you're going to bake this in the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for 25 minutes. Once it's done baking, you're going to take it out. Then sprinkle the entire top with 1.5 cups of mini marshmallows. Place it back into the oven for 5 more minutes just for the marshmallows to melt. And here is the final result, you guys. This will make your home smell so good. Everyone at Thanksgiving is going to love this. It's so yummy. The next recipe on the holiday menu is bacon wrapped asparagus. These are so good you can serve as a fancy side or an appetizer. I'm using about 1 pound of asparagus for this recipe. I'm going to start by chopping off the woody part of the asparagus. Once that is done, I'm going to transfer the asparagus onto a baking sheet. I'm drizzling a tablespoon of olive oil all over them. Then I'm going to season with some black pepper. I'm also seasoning with some garlic salt. I'm using about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic salt. I'm going to toss everything together very well, then set aside for later. Next, I have some bacon here. You're going to need about 1 to 2 pounds of bacon for this recipe. I like to chop about 1 inch or 2 of the fatty end of the bacon off. That way it's the same length as the asparagus. Next, I'm going to grab a baking sheet, then place a wire rack over it. Next, I'm going to grab 1 asparagus. I'm also going to grab a slice of bacon. Then you're going to wrap the bacon around the asparagus, just like I'm doing. Make sure you don't overlap the bacon, otherwise it's not going to crisp up very well. Okay, guys? Once that is done, go ahead and place the bacon wrapped asparagus onto the rack. Then you're going to repeat the process with the rest of your asparagus and bacon. Make sure your oven is preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you've arranged everything onto the rack, place it into the oven to roast for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you're going to flip them over. That way they can roast evenly and crisp up very well. Place them back into the oven to roast for another 10 to 15 minutes. After they are done roasting, you're going to turn your oven to the broiler setting, then broil them for 3 extra minutes. Make sure you keep an eye on them so they don't burn. And here they are. They smell really good. The bacon is crispy golden brown and the asparagus are very well roasted inside. Try these bacon asparagus for the holidays to impress your family. They are so good. Everybody's going to love them. Next, we are going to make some green beans. These roasted garlic parm green beans are full of flavor. We're using 1 pound of green beans. Place them into a baking pan, then drizzle with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Then season with 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, 1 teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, and oregano. Add 3 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese and 3 tablespoons of panko breadcrumbs. Mix everything together very well, then arrange the green beans in a single layer all over the baking pan. Place into the oven to bake at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. This is the finished product. These green beans are so flavorful and delicious. Everyone will be talking about it. Next on the holiday menu, we're making these delicious pan-fried potatoes. We're using 6 gold potatoes already peeled. I'm going to thinly slice each potato, just like that. Once the potatoes are all sliced up, we're going to start cooking them. I'm pouring 3 tablespoons of olive oil into my pan over medium heat. Then I'm adding 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I'm going to cook the butter until it melts into the oil. Then I'm adding the sliced potatoes. I went ahead and sliced up an onion. I'm going to toss that in with the potatoes. Season with 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon black pepper, 1 teaspoon each of dried parsley, adobo seasoning, paprika, garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon dried thyme, and 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Add all the spices to the potatoes, then toss everything together. Once the spices have mixed in very well with the potatoes, we're going to saute everything on medium heat for 5 minutes. While the potatoes are cooking for 5 minutes, make sure you stir them in periodically, that way they don't burn. Each time you stir them in, you're going to place a lid over them and leave them to cook for a few seconds. Take the lid off and stir them in again, that way they don't burn. You're going to repeat the process of covering and stirring the potatoes until the 5 minutes are up. Add 1/3 cup chicken broth. Mix it in gently. The potatoes have started softening up, so you want to be gentle, that way they don't break. And then you're going to turn your heat down to low heat. Place a lid over the potatoes and let them smother in the sauce for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, stir them in and check the softness if it's to your liking. If they aren't soft enough, smother them for an extra 2 minutes or until they're as soft as you want them. And here are the potatoes when they're all done. These are deliciously smothered skillet potatoes. They're so flavorful, such a delicious side for Thanksgiving or Christmas. Next, this deliciously baked mac and cheese is such a crowd pleaser for the holidays. Start by cooking 1 pound of elbow pasta according to package instruction. When the pasta has finished cooking, you're going to completely drain it. Add 1/2 cup of softened butter, then mix everything together. Season with 1 teaspoon each of oregano, garlic, and onion powder. Also season with salt and black pepper to your taste. Mix everything together very well. Then add 8 ounces of Velveeta cheese, 8 ounces of cheddar cheese, 8 ounces of Monterey Jack, and 8 ounces of Parmesan cheese. Mix everything together, then set aside for later. Next, we're going to mix together 2 eggs and 1.5 cups of milk. Pour that into the mixture, then mix everything together very well. Use about a tablespoon of butter to grease a baking dish, then pour the mac and cheese mixture into it. Spread that out, then top with 1/2 cup cheddar cheese and 1 teaspoon of paprika. Bake this in the oven at 375 for 45 minutes. And here's the mac and cheese when it's all done. This mac and cheese is so good, it's going to be the show for your Thanksgiving. Next holiday side dish, we're making these delicious yet easy sauteed carrots. I didn't really measure the ingredients for this recipe, I just eyeballed everything. I'm melting some butter in a pan over medium heat. Once the butter has melted, I'm going to toss in some sliced carrots and onion. I'm seasoning with salt and black pepper. Then I'm going to saute for about 2 minutes, then add some minced garlic. I'm cooking the garlic for 30 seconds to get fragrant. Then I'm going to add a splash of apple juice. The apple juice is going to bring out the sweetness of the carrots. Next, you're going to turn the heat down to low. Place a lid over the carrots and let them cook for about 8 minutes to soften. Once the carrots have cooked, you're going to turn your heat to high and let them caramelize for 1 minute. These carrots are so delicious and easy to make for the holiday table. Next on the menu is a simple roasted broccoli recipe, easy to make for the holidays. We're using 1.5 pounds of broccoli florets for this recipe. Pour in 3 tablespoons of olive oil and 1 tablespoon of melted butter. Mix everything together very well. Then we're going to season with 1 teaspoon each of garlic and onion powder, 1/2 teaspoon each of oregano, basil, paprika, salt, and 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. Mix all the spices together very well. Then you're going to add only half of the spices. Mix that in very well. As soon as it's very well mixed in, add the rest of the spices, then mix it in again. When you add the spices in this way, they mix better with the broccoli. Next, you're going to grab a large baking sheet, grease it very well with nonstick spray, then transfer the broccoli into it. Arrange the broccoli in a single layer. Make sure they're not sitting on top of each other. You're going to preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. Place the broccoli into the oven to roast for 12 to 15 minutes or until they are as soft as you want them. The roasting time really depends on how big or small the florets are. Halfway through the roasting time, you're going to stir through the broccoli, then put it back into the oven to finish roasting. And here's the broccoli when it's ready. It smells really good. During the last 2 minutes of roasting, I put my oven at the broil setting to get the outside a little crispy, but that's completely optional. The broccoli came out very flavorful and really delicious. Last but not least, on the holiday menu, we're making roasted sweet potatoes. These are so soft on the inside and deliciously caramelized on the outside. We're using 3 already peeled sweet potatoes for this recipe. We're going to cut up the sweet potatoes, so start by dividing each potato lengthwise. Then you're going to slice each half into 3 equal parts. Next, you're going to cut the potatoes into cubes just like I'm doing. Once you're done cutting all your potatoes into cubes, transfer them into a large mixing bowl. Add 3 tablespoons of olive oil, then toss everything together very well. Season with half teaspoon garlic powder, half teaspoon onion powder, half teaspoon paprika, 1 tablespoon brown sugar, and a teaspoon cinnamon. Last, season with salt and pepper to taste, then mix everything together very well. Once everything is mixed in, pour the sweet potatoes onto a very well greased baking pan. Make sure your baking pan is very well greased, otherwise the sweet potatoes will stick. Arrange them in a single layer. Make sure you space them out, that way they can roast very well. Your oven should be preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to roast the sweet potatoes for 30 to 35 minutes. Every 10 minutes, you're going to take out the sweet potatoes, then toss them around with a spatula. Doing this will prevent them from burning. When the sweet potatoes are done, make sure you stick them with a toothpick to make sure they're very soft on the inside. Mine baked for exactly 30 minutes. The baking time depends on how big or small the pieces are. You guys are going to love these sweet potatoes for the holidays, as well as every single recipe I've shared with you today. Have a beautiful Thanksgiving. I will see you very soon. Bye!